52% of Latino voters voted for Harris overall. But when it came to Latino men, 55% voted for Trump, compared for 38% of Latina voters voted for Trump. It is a stark stat, and I, wanted to ask you because there is a terrible lesson to draw. Like there's ways that we on the left could like antagonize one another, and then there's ways we can actually learn from this. But maybe just anecdotally, what are you hearing? How are people feeling? And yeah, I mean, I know you've said like folks don't even want to talk to their family members over their vote.
It's been really challenging. I mean, so yes, I think it's been sort of, the narrative has become Latinos voted for Trump, and I think it's a lot more complicated than that. Reality, as you said, is that still majority of Latinos end up voting for Democrats for mostly, for Kamala Harris. The challenge is that we could have, or by we, I mean, meaning Harris, could have won certain key states because of the Latino vote, right? Like Arizona has been a really huge, Latinos have been huge for Arizona, for Georgia, in other key states. And unfortunately, either they didn't turn out or ended up some folks ended up going for Trump. And I'm still trying to, figure out how that happened. And I can only tell you just my own experience, having conversations with people I know, has been, again, this like whole fear of the economy getting worse, this like folks wanting to ensure that they are able to get a house, they are able to pay the rent, they are able to, pay the bills and so on. And they really bought this idea from Trump that he would be able to change things. And there's another layer to it, which I think it's completely unfortunate, is that even talking to some undocumented folks who have been here for many, many years, for decades, who really believed this narrative that those newcomers, people who were just coming into the country, were now taking from them, right?
Yeah.
And it's those kind. Is that kind of situation where there's a specific narrative, then Trump takes it, he blows it up, and even people who are affected by the situation, or even people who might have family members who are affected by the situation, end up believing it. And I think a lot of us just didn't even think that was going to be possible, and ended up being possible. So I think we have to reflect on that and figure out how to ensure that we are paying attention to the working class. And a lot of people in the people of color, people in the Latino community are working class people.
Totally. And doesn't it speak to the divides in the working class that, capitalism imposes upon them, whether it's trying to work for, because you can imagine, right? If you are working your way up in some sort of business, or you're a business owner or whatnot, and then you feel like newcomers are willing to work for less. I mean, it's the same that, global capitalism does, which is just treat workers as expendable, go to the lowest common, the person who will work for the least money. And so it does make sense in that way, because you want to protect the gains that you have. But obviously, even though it's so painful, here is a clip from CNN that sort of illustrates exactly what we've been talking about.
If they let in hundreds or thousands of people who already have criminal records, if deporting them creates a mass deportation, I'm all for it.
But what if rounded up in all of that are people who work on a farm? They're doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do. Does that worry you?
That wouldn't be fair. Of course, they need to make sure that they don't throw away, they don't kick out, they don't deport people that are family oriented.
The question.
They don't kick out people who are family oriented. So that man he's a business owner. He's originally from El Salvador. He and his wife, I believe, got amnesty under Reagan. I think if them or at some point they were able to get amnesty. And what's interesting, Erika, about this divide of like, oh, let's kick out the criminals or the new, which, I mean, we're really in this rat out your neighbor type, vibe, which is so scary. And that is very fascistic, right? That's the criminal. Well, are they a criminal or are they just a new migrant? Oh, well, they're just, they were just, whatever, like selling food in a place that I didn't agree with. or, giving me a run for my money or whatnot. But look at this, this is Pew, who looks at the number of undocumented immigrants, or unauthorized immigrants, as they say, who live in 6.3 million households, which include more than 22 million people, meaning they're only about 11 to 12 million only. There are 11 to 12 million undocumented people in this country, but they're living in households with 22 million people. And 86% of the households, either the householder or the spouse is unauthorized. 70% of the households are considered mixed status, meaning they also contain lawful immigrants or US-born residents. Only 5% of these households, the unauthorized immigrants, are not related to the householder or spouse, meaning these are these are families. And the idea that a mass deportation program can come in and distinguish, okay, you are, you've been a naturalized citizen, or you have your green card, or you have DACA, and you do not. The idea that a Trump mass deportation system would differentiate between those two, I think, is giving them a lot of credit, to say nothing of the fact that you are breaking up a family when you deport half of that family. But please weigh in. And Chloe, please also, we're going to weigh in.
Look, here's what I will say. I think people believed Trump. People, and I mean all of the people who voted for him, even those who have family members who are immigrants or undocumented, they ended up believing this narrative that people are only going to be deported if they are quote unquote criminals, right? I don't know what image comes in their mind when they think of a quote unquote criminal. Here's what I will tell you, and I'm going to get a little bit personal here, is that my own house has been raided. 2013, my own home was raided by immigration. They took my mom. They took my brother. They came for my mom because she had a previous deportation order from 1998, and that was she didn't even enter the country. She was basically detained at the border. She was sent back. That triggered a deportation order, and then we came back as a family. And so many years later, we've been here for 26 years. Many years later, ICE comes to my house. They came for my mom. My brother was outside working on his car, fixing his car, and they decided to take him too. My brother had nothing to do with a deportation order. They decided to take him too. Now, this is under the Obama administration. And the same guy who Trump just picked as his border czar, or whatever they're calling him now, the same guy was the head of ICE under the Obama administration. Now, what did they tell me about my mom and about my brother? First, they said that my brother was collateral damage and that was going to happen. And then for my mom, they said that she was a threat to national security. She was a 55-year-old woman who could barely walk because her knees were completely destroyed because of osteoarthritis. She was disabled. And what I'm telling this story because I want people to understand that they don't care what you have done. As long as they think that you're undocumented, and as long as they can keep the numbers to show people, to show American citizens or American voters that they deported a ton of people, they are going to go after our families, whether they're undocumented or not, whether they have committed a crime or not. And that's what we have to prepare for.
Yes, and that was the one thing I didn't include in my Orange Man Bad segment. Tom Homan, who looks like a Marvel villain. Like, he is like, his neck is just this thick and he is just looking like red face, like this guy slurs in his sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is the person, and it's so funny because we remember that throughout the campaign, Trump is trying to run to the left of Kamala Harris, like I've had right-wingers say to me, like, well, Obama was the deporter in chief. And I was like, he was. It was terrible. I'm not going to defend Obama. And then they pick Obama's guy. And also, just thank you for telling us that about your own experience with how it affected your family. And I know you guys had to fight that for a really long time.
She's still here because we had to do a whole lot of work to stop her deportation. And my brother's still here as well. And I would not wish this on anyone. Just first, the trauma of seeing your own mother taken from front of you. My brother was only 17 at that time. He was still a child. And secondly, having to I mean, I'm an organizer, so I was able to organize to ensure that she stayed home. But most people in my situation or the situation in my family don't have the skills and the ability to mobilize and to get people to stop a deportation. So again, this is what we have to prepare for. And I hope that those folks who ended up believing Trump can really see the reality, and we see a different turnout, a different situation in the upcoming elections in 4 years. But we have to show people the reality and the human side of what this is going to cause.
Yeah, I think sadly people won't realize it until it affects them, until they see it for themselves. It's like, with the civil rights movement, people didn't sympathize until they saw these young Black kids being hosed down and chased by dogs. And so it shouldn't take that. Now it won't even take that. It has to actually literally happen to them or someone that they know and care about for them to be sympathetic. And I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
I also think that we need to stop giving the benefit of the doubt. Like we have to stop acting like these things that are messy, that could be straightened out if people had the time, money, effort, energy. It's not that they rounded up everybody because they wanted to, it's because the system is flawed, or no, the intent is to round up as many people as possible.
Right.
And if whoever falls in, oh well, they're not going to correct the problem because they don't want you here anyway. So we have to stop thinking that the system is a little broken. Like, no, this is the system.
Exactly. And we saw that in the first 4 years of Trump, right? Like the child separation was part of that. People who still haven't been reunited with their family members who were caught up in that. And it's like, you don't need a good design to be fascistic. You could just have, be militaristic and be psychotic and embolden vigilantism. And the effect is the same. I mean, I have always said, like, the Republican, and honestly, let's be real, the Democratic approach to the so-called crisis of immigration, or just immigration in general, is to be worse than the violence that many migrants are fleeing in their home countries in the first place. That is the goal. It's like, that's deterrence. All deterrence is saying, oh, we're going to just be like an institutionalized MS-13. Like, oh, we're just going to be like a gang with like, a badge. Because we don't want, and they are attacking the exact same groups of people. It's just the U.S. thinks they can do it worse. So people will remain in their countries.
Oh wait, but the U.S. can do it. That's the thing I want other people to realize. The U.S. can do it worse because we do it in other countries. So I don't want people to see violence and be like, oh, this is not like us. No, this is what we've always done. But now, because of the new administration, they will be allowed to do the things here that they have been doing overseas that they were not allowed to do before.
That's right.
Well, I just want to look little before we keep going. There's a little silver lining. I didn't play this because there's another governor who's apparently sticking up for his people, and his people do include immigrants, undocumented folks. JB Pritzker, who's one of the few good billionaires, maybe like one of the three. Governor of Illinois said this in regards to Trump taking office and perhaps mass deportation campaigns.
To anyone who intends to come take away the freedom and opportunity and dignity of Illinoisans, I would remind you that a happy warrior is still a warrior. You come for my people, you come through me.
Okay. Yeah. That's exactly how I'm like, okay, good.
Go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was just saying, that's exactly what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to push all of these governors, all these mayors, all the people who have power over law enforcement locally.
Yeah.
To say no, we're not gonna cooperate. One of the things that ICE does is they basically work with programs that allow immigration to work with police. And, governors and mayors and all these local leaders do have the ability to say, just like this governor did, not in my watch and not on my watch. And we're not going to allow for this to happen to our community. So I'm just so glad that he's saying this.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.